Happy New Year. Here we are at the beginning or near the beginning of a new year, 2010. Yesterday was an anniversary of sorts of the very, very beginning of something new, the very, very early part of a new partnership celebrated on the one-year anniversary yesterday, January 9th, 2009, a day when a large packet of information arrived in my mailbox in Atlanta from Ford Street Presbyterian Church in downtown Detroit. I've been thinking about that day a lot lately, and subsequent days and weeks and months. A year's a long time, you know. A great deal has happened in the past 12 months, certainly to our family, and I suspect to yours as well. But still, our friendship is in the very early stages, yours and mine together. It's still very new, hardly yet begun. Really, we're just getting acquainted with one another, still discovering how to be together, still discovering how to do ministry in this place. Now, to be sure, we've made our way through many new beginnings already since I was called to be your new pastor in June. We have walked together through an extraordinarily busy fall full of many special days, often familiar to you, usually unfamiliar and new to me. Now, according to my calculations, in 8 months, maybe even a little bit less than 8 months, I'll no longer be doing everything new for the very first time at Ford Street, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. Next year, I will know what Genesis Sunday is. I now know what the sanctuary looks surrounded by international flags all the way around, and plans are already in the works for World Communion 2010. I know what to expect on Fort Street Chorale's weekend of Messiah performances. I've experienced the wonder and beauty and awe of Fort Street on Christmas Eve, and we're already dreaming and visioning what Advent and Christmas may look like a few months from now. And just to keep things interesting this fall, in the midst of experiencing the newness of each other through all of the routine events and activities and operations of Fort Street, we took on things new to all of us. There was Marathon Weekend, which we now know how to do even more effectively than we did this year. There was the Fall Open House, on which we will build and expand to increasingly engage our neighborhood, our immediate neighborhood, in more effective ways. There was the installation service and luncheon and reception, which were wonderful and for which I thank you greatly, and for which, thankfully, we do not need to be concerned this year and can put our energies into other things. Lots of new beginnings together, with many more new beginnings on the horizon. The beginning of a new ministry with many opportunities before us. That's what the gospel reading this morning is about. The beginning of a new ministry, the beginning of Jesus' ministry. It begins at the River Jordan, where John is baptizing the people, calling them to repentance, a return to God, instructing them how to live by the ways of God. And at the end of the line, after all the others have been baptized, all that have been waiting there to be baptized, we see Jesus, now about 30 years old, also coming, asking to be baptized. And then we see Spirit descending upon Jesus, a vision like the form of a dove coming down, and we hear a voice from heaven declaring, "You are my own, my beloved, my favor rests on you." Now, at this moment, you might begin to think of the awe and wonder of baptism, such as you watched and observed last week. Perhaps you're thinking of your own baptism, or stories at least that you've heard about your own baptism, or maybe the baptism of your child, your grandchild, your great-grandchild, a niece, a nephew, a friend. Or you might also be thinking of ordination to a church office. When the church declares you ready for a new type of ministry, laying hands upon you, praying for you as you take on new, awesome responsibilities in a formal way for the very first time. Or maybe you're thinking about installation, when again you are called out and charged with responsibilities for ministry in a special way. We might also think of confirmation, when young people in their own right now, before the entire church, after much study and preparation, declare their intention to follow the Jesus way. being recognized in the eyes of the church as ready to take on adult responsibilities in the life and work of the community of faith. Now, all of these times are special moments in life, God moments, if you will, when spirituality is at the forefront, faith is embraced as critical to our lives, perhaps more than at other times. In fact, these are possibly transforming moments when we are in tune with God, overwhelmed by goodness, seeing ourselves and our lives in new and wonderful ways. These wonderful moments in life are happy times when the road ahead seems bright and promising, and we are energized, full of life, joyful. But then we look back at the gospel narrative in Luke. Jesus returns from the Jordan filled with God's Spirit, who leads him into the desert for 40 days, which in biblical terms is a really, really, really long time, whether or not it's actually shorter or longer than 40 days. So this is Jesus' inaugural ministry, the first event of the ministry to which he is called, right after his baptism, as soon as he is anointed by God, declared God's own, God's beloved child, with a particular ministry set before him. There is no so-called honeymoon for Jesus, no officer training retreat to help prepare him for what is coming, no Alban Institute books to follow, no mentor to guide him along the way, no book of order to consult to see what the rules really are. Here is Jesus in the desert, facing his own wilderness experience, a time of isolation in a rugged, rough place with some tough choices that have to be made. Here he is, the newly announced anointed one of God, about to face temptations with nothing, as far as we know, having prepared him for this ordeal. Now, remember, it is good, not evil, spirit, not devil, who takes Jesus into this wilderness experience, where he eats nothing for the entire time of this struggle, ending up famished and depleted. So taking maximum advantage of the situation, knowing Jesus is really, really hungry, the first temptation is thrown at Jesus, tempting him physically to look within to his own real needs and to fulfill these needs without concern for the consequences. The devil says to extremely hungry Jesus, if you really are God's own, turn this stone into bread. Eat. Be satisfied. Jesus replies, we don't live by bread alone. Because you see, Jesus knows while physical food is really important, actually essential to the continuation of his life, humans need more than basic human necessities in order to be whole. And Jesus also knows he is being asked to prove himself. And as tempting as it is to use our power trying to prove how good we really are, falling into that trap is a never-ending road that doesn't really ever satisfy anyone and leaves us feeling defensive, always on guard, forever having to prove ourselves.